A strong woman knows pain isn't the end of her story. It's the beginning of a new chapter she gets to write. She understands that the world will not hand her comfort wrapped in a ribbon. It will hand her challenges, heartbreak, punishment, betrayal, and moments that make her question everything. But instead of letting those moments bury her, she lets them build her. Pain might knock her down, but it never keeps her there. She stands up, wipes her tears, and tells herself, punishment. This will not be the thing that breaks me. Pain is a teacher. It doesn't show up politely. It crashes into your life without warning. And when it does, you have two choices. Let it consume you or let it shape you. Punishment. A strong woman chooses the second. She learns the lesson even if it's hard. She takes the heartbreak and turns it into boundaries. She takes the betrayal and turns it into wisdom. Punishment. She takes the moments of self-doubt and turns them into unshakable confidence. She doesn't pretend pain doesn't hurt. It does. She just refuses to stay wounded forever because she knows the longer you sit in the pain, punishment, the deeper it roots itself in your identity, and a strong woman refuses to let pain become who she is. Instead, she channels it into who she's becoming. She uses it to fuel her goals, her discipline, her purpose. Punishment. That's the quiet power most people don't see. They see her success, her strength, her calm, but they don't see the night she cried herself to sleep or the mornings she woke up and chose to fight anyway. Punishment. Pain also teaches her what truly matters. It strips away the noise, the people, and the distractions that don't serve her anymore. It's in the hardest moments that she realizes her worth is not up for negotiation. Punishment. She learns to stop chasing people who don't value her and stop begging for places that were never meant for her. She understands that walking away is not weakness. It's the clearest form of self-respect. Punishment. Every wound she's carried becomes a scar, and every scar tells a story of survival. Those scars are not there to remind her of what she lost. They remind her of what she gained: strength, wisdom, and resilience. Punishment. She doesn't cover them up out of shame. She wears them openly because they're proof she's been through the fire and came out stronger. And here's the truth. Her power doesn't come from never falling apart. Punishment. It comes from falling apart and rebuilding herself better every single time. Her strength is in her ability to take life's hardest punches and still stand tall, still love deeply, and still believe in better days ahead. That's the kind of power no one can take away. So if you're in your own season of pain right now, remember this: it's not here to destroy you, it's here to develop you. You may not see it today, punishment, but there will come a time when you'll look back and realize this pain was the turning point. The moment you stopped shrinking and started rising, the moment you stopped waiting to be saved and became your own savior. Punishment. A strong woman turns pain into power, not because it's easy, but because she refuses to waste her suffering. She knows that if she has to carry it, she might as well make it count. And when she does, punishment, she becomes unstoppable, not in the absence of pain, but because she learned how to turn it into her greatest source of strength. Pain doesn't define you. Your response to it does. Punishment. Life has a way of throwing storms at you without warning. One day you're steady, the sun is shining, and everything feels like it's falling into place. The next, a wave of pain hits you so hard you can't catch your breath. It could be heartbreak, loss, betrayal, or disappointment so heavy it knocks the wind out of you. But here's the truth: the pain itself isn't the thing that will shape your future. What shapes you is how you choose to respond to it. Punishment. Pain is universal. Every single person you know carries it in some form. But have you noticed how some people go through devastating situations and still come out with grace, strength, and even joy? Punishment. And others go through similar things and become bitter, angry, or hopeless. That difference isn't luck, it's choice. It's the decision to rise instead of sink. Your response is the filter through which pain passes. You can let it poison you, or you can let it purify you. If you choose bitterness, you chain yourself to the event forever. You keep replaying it in your head, feeding it with your energy, punishment, and letting it dictate how you see yourself in the world. But if you choose to face it head on, to process it, learn from it, and grow beyond it, you take back control. You tell the pain, you're not the author of my story. I am. This doesn't mean ignoring the hurt or pretending it doesn't exist. Denial is just delayed damage. Strong response to pain isn't about faking positivity, punishment. It's about dealing with it in a way that makes you better instead of breaking you. It's sitting with the pain long enough to understand it, but not so long that it becomes your identity. It's letting yourself cry when you need to, punishment, but also making the choice to get up the next morning and take one more step forward. The power is in the pivot. Pain is the pressure, but your response determines whether that pressure turns you into dust or into a diamond. Punishment. You have the ability to take what hurt you and turn it into fuel. Fuel for your goals, your boundaries, your determination. That's how some of the strongest people you know were built. They didn't get there because life was easy. Punishment, they got there because life was hard and they responded with resilience instead of surrender. It's also important to remember that your response sets the tone for your future. If you respond to pain with self-doubt, you teach yourself to expect less from life. But if you respond with self-belief, even in small, shaky steps, you train your mind to see pain as temporary and growth as inevitable. That shift in mindset changes everything. Punishment, because when you believe you can rise, you will. There will be people who underestimate you because of what you've been through. They'll assume the pain has weakened you. Let them think that. Punishment. You don't need to convince anyone of your strength. Your actions will do that for you. Every time you show up for yourself, despite the hurt, every time you set a boundary instead of breaking down, punishment, you're proving to yourself first and to the world second that you are more than what happened to you. Pain is a chapter, not the title of your book. You're the one who decides what gets written on the next page. Punishment. You can let the chapter be one of defeat, or you can make it the turning point where everything changed for the better. That's the beauty of response. It's in your control, even when the pain isn't. Punishment. So the next time you face something that threatens to break you, remember the pain is just the pressure. You are the decision maker. You get to choose whether it becomes the weight that crushes you or the fire that forges you. Punishment. And in that choice, you discover a truth that will carry you through anything. You are not defined by what happens to you, but by how you rise after it. Growth often hides inside discomfort. It's human nature to want ease. Punishment. We chase comfort like it's the reward for living, the steady job, the predictable routine, the safe relationships, the familiar environment. Comfort feels good because it asks nothing from us. Punishment. But here's the reality: most people avoid comfort rarely changes you. It keeps you where you are, not where you could be. The moments that truly shape you, the seasons where you grow into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable, punishment, are almost always wrapped in discomfort. Think about it. Your biggest breakthroughs didn't come when everything was smooth. They came when something pushed you out of your usual rhythm. Maybe it was a job that stretched your skills, punishment, a relationship that forced you to set boundaries, or a setback that made you completely reevaluate who you are and what you want. Discomfort doesn't feel like growth in the moment. It feels like pressure, frustration, sometimes even fear. But on the other side of it, you see how much it taught you. Discomfort is the gym for your mind and soul. Just like muscles don't grow without resistance, your character doesn't grow without challenges. Punishment. If everything stayed easy, you'd never need to develop resilience, patience, or courage. It's the tough conversations that teach you how to communicate better. It's the failures that teach you resourcefulness. Punishment. It's the uncertainty that teaches you faith in your own ability to adapt. The problem is most people run from discomfort too quickly. They pull back at the first sign of friction, not realizing that friction is part of the process. If you leave the moment too soon, you leave before the lesson can do its work. That's why strong people lean in. They don't love the pain, but they respect the purpose behind it. Punishment. They know that sitting with discomfort a little longer often reveals something about themselves they couldn't see before. Sometimes growth in discomfort is quiet. It doesn't always look like big wins or public success. Punishment. It might be the day you say no when you've always said yes. The moment you speak up when your voice is shaking. The decision to walk away from something you've outgrown, even when it leaves you alone for a while. Those are not comfortable decisions, but they are the exact choices that build a stronger version of you. If you avoid discomfort at all costs, you also avoid the growth waiting on the other side of it. The truth is punishment. The life you want is always going to require a version of you that's a little braver, a little wiser, a little more disciplined than you are today. And you can't get there without stretching beyond the edges of what feels safe. Punishment. So the next time you're in a season that feels uncomfortable, don't rush to escape it. Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Who am I becoming because of this? Because chances are, punishment. That's where the real growth is happening, hidden inside the very discomfort you wish would go away. And when you finally step out of it, you'll realize it wasn't there to break you. It was there to build you. Punishment. Boundaries built from pain become shields of self-respect. Pain has a way of teaching you lessons that nothing else can. It's not a polite teacher. It's sharp, sudden, and unforgettable. Punishment. You learn what betrayal feels like when you trust the wrong person. You learn what exhaustion feels like when you keep giving more than you have. Punishment. You learn what disappointment feels like when you expect someone to treat you the way you treat them, and they don't. And somewhere along the way, you realize something important. You can't keep living without protection. Punishment. That's where boundaries are born. A boundary isn't a wall to keep everyone out. It's a shield to protect the parts of you that matter most. When you've been through enough pain, you stop setting boundaries out of preference punishment, and you start setting them out of survival. You know what it's like to let the wrong people too close, to say yes when you should have said no, to keep showing up for someone who wouldn't cross the street for you. Punishment. That's why you start drawing lines, not because you're hard or cold, but because you respect yourself too much to let the same pain happen twice. Boundaries built from pain are powerful because they're rooted in experience. Punishment. You're not guessing anymore. You know what certain behavior costs you. You know what happens when you ignore the red flags. You know the emotional toll of staying in places where you're not valued. And now you've decided that your peace is too expensive to lose again. People might not understand your boundaries at first, especially those who benefited from you not having any. They might call you distant, selfish, or even difficult. Punishment. But here's the truth. Boundaries aren't about them. They're about you. They're about making sure you can keep showing up for the right people and the right opportunities without being drained dry by the wrong ones. Punishment. Every time you enforce a boundary, you're telling the world, I know my worth and I won't negotiate it. You're protecting your time, your mental health, your energy, and your heart. That's not selfish. That's essential. Without those shields, you'll spend your life patching up wounds that never had to happen. The pain that once broke you now serves as your armor. You remember how it felt to be taken advantage of, so you no longer ignore the early signs. Punishment. You remember how it felt to be dismissed, so you no longer stay silent. You remember how it felt to be drained, so you no longer give beyond your capacity. That's how boundaries turn pain into power, by making sure you're never in the same position again. Over time, you start to see something else. Your boundaries don't just keep harm out, punishment, they also make room for the right things to come in. When you say no to what doesn't serve you, you create space for what does. And when people respect those boundaries, punishment confirms you're surrounded by those who value you for who you are, not just what you can give. Pain may have been the reason you built your boundaries, but self-respect is the reason you keep them. And when you carry that shield, punishment, you're not just protecting yourself, you're honoring yourself. You're living like someone who knows their worth. And that is one of the strongest forms of power you'll ever have, punishment. Power is reclaimed when you refuse to stay a victim. Life will hand you moments that feel unfair, moments where you didn't deserve what happened to you. People will hurt you without apology, betray you without warning, punishment, and walk away without explanation. Circumstances will knock you off your feet, sometimes so hard that it feels impossible to get back up. And in those moments, punishment. It's easy to fall into the role of the victim, to replay the story of what they did, how they treated you, and how life didn't go the way you planned. But here's the thing, staying in that role keeps you trapped. Punishment. The more you tell yourself, this is who I am because of what happened to me, the more you give away your power. You may not realize it, but when you let the hurt define you, punishment, you're handing control over to the very thing or the very person that caused the pain. Refusing to stay a victim doesn't mean denying what happened. It means owning your story without letting it own you. It's saying, yes, this happened. Yes, it hurt, but I decide where I go from here. That shift is where your power begins to return, because the moment you take responsibility for your next step, you take the steering wheel back into your own hands. Punishment. When you stop seeing yourself only as someone who was wronged, you start seeing yourself as someone who can rebuild. And that's where transformation happens. You stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? You stop replaying the past and start preparing for the future. And you realize that even though you couldn't control the event, you can absolutely control the outcome. Punishment. Choosing not to stay a victim is not about pretending to be unbreakable. It's about refusing to stay broken. It's about taking the pain, the lessons, the scars, and turning them into something that serves you. Punishment. You might not be able to erase the chapter, but you can make sure it's not the ending of your story. This mindset doesn't just heal you, it changes the way you carry yourself. People can feel the difference. Punishment. They see the shift from someone weighed down by what happened to someone walking forward with purpose. They see that you're not living in reaction anymore. You're living in creation. And the most powerful part, when you refuse to stay a victim, you become proof for someone else that it's possible. Someone out there needs to see you rise so they can believe they can too. Punishment, your choice to reclaim your power, doesn't just set you free, it can inspire freedom in others. At the end of the day, you get to decide, will you be the main character of your story or just the casualty of someone else's actions? Punishment. Power is not something anyone can hand you. It's something you take back the moment you decide that what happened to you will not be the definition of you. And when you make that decision, punishment, nothing and no one can take it away again. Your past becomes your strength when you choose to rise, not repeat. Every one of us has a past, choices we regret, seasons we wish we could erase, punishment, and moments that still feel heavy when we think about them. It's tempting to let those mistakes or painful experiences define us, to replay them in our minds until they become a permanent label we wear. But here's the truth: punishment. Your past is not a prison unless you keep locking yourself inside it. The real power comes when you decide to use it as a stepping stone instead of a stumbling block. Rising means learning. It means looking at the patterns, the people, punishment, and the decisions that led you to hurt, and deciding not to walk the same road twice. You recognize the warning signs you missed before. You trust your instincts more. You put up boundaries earlier. Punishment. That's how your past turns into wisdom instead of wounds. But that only happens when you choose not to repeat it. Repeating your past is easy because it's familiar. Punishment. Even toxic habits and harmful relationships can feel safe simply because they're known. Rising requires breaking that familiarity. It demands that you step into the unknown, a place where you don't yet have all the answers. Punishment. But you have faith in your ability to handle them. When you rise, you turn your scars into reminders, not regrets. You stop seeing them as proof of your weakness and start seeing them as evidence of your survival. Punishment. That shift changes the way you move forward. Instead of being weighed down by shame, you carry the confidence of someone who has already been tested and lived to tell the story. Your past, when used right, becomes a toolkit. Punishment. Every heartbreak teaches you what real love should look like. Every failure teaches you how to prepare better. Every loss teaches you what truly matters. You begin to walk into new opportunities with the strength of someone who has already fought battles and knows they can win again. And here's the most powerful part: when you use your past as strength, punishment, the very thing that once threatened to break you, becomes the reason you can stand tall today. It no longer has the power to haunt you because you've taken its power and made it your own. You're not running from it. Punishment. You're carrying it like armor. Rising instead of repeating is a decision you make every single day. Some days it's easy. Other days you'll feel yourself slipping back into old patterns. But even on those days, punishment. You have the choice to pause, remember who you've become, and take a different step. Every time you do, you prove to yourself that you're no longer the person you were. You're stronger, wiser, punishment, and far more capable than you ever thought. Your past was a chapter, not the whole book. And when you choose to rise, you turn it into the most valuable chapter of all. The one that gave you the tools, the courage, punishment, and the clarity to create a future you deserve. That's when your past stops holding you back and starts pushing you forward. That's when it becomes your strength,